Hauser.
Казвам се Reini Hauser.
I'm from Switzerland.
И съм от Швейцария, Цюрих.
I've lived many years in the United States.
Живял съм дълги години в Щатите.
And I'm also not only from Switzerland, but I'm also from Dreamland right now.
И също така, освен че съм от Швейцария, съм и от страната на сънищата в момента.
It should be good to speaking about addiction because I'm in a very deep altered state of not sleeping for a few days.
Е хубаво да говорим за това, понеже от няколко дни не съм спал и съм в едно такова състояние на
I feel very non-linear,
в момента не е много така концентрирано.
which is very much against the Swiss nature in me.
Всъщност това не е много присъщо за един швейцарец.
And this is actually where addictions and addictive tendencies come in.
Всъщност това е в начина на изразяване в момента ще се...
Where they come in, where they start.
Sorry, but about the...
about having an identity of being Swiss and then being like non-linear.
Говоря за това, че в момента, освен че умората е малко повече, не е присъщо за швейцарците, но да го извините за сегашното състояние.
Relaxing the everyday identity, that's usually what addictive tendencies do for us.
Да, и е хубаво да релаксираме вътрешното си аз.
It's going to be hard to translate.
No. I'll catch up.
Right. Okay, I'm identifying as a process worker.
Аз съм човек, който работи обича да работи в процес на нещата.
Meaning I'm a close associate of Arnold Mindell.
И работи заедно с Арнолд Мандел.
For the past 30 years, actually.
Последните 30 години.
And I'm leading training programs and.
И води обучителни програми.
I'm a senior teacher of process work.
Също така преподава на студенти.
Which grew out of Jungian psychology.
И както знаете, те са всъщност последователи на Янг.
And so Jung very much put out the idea of the self and the transpersonal self.
Jung е поставил идеята за трансперсоналното.
The transpersonal self is a Jungian idea. And so he's the grandfather of transpersonal psychology, so to speak. And Mindell took Jung's ideas further into the area of body work, relationship work, group dynamics, as well as extreme states of consciousness. What Groff calls spiritual emergence.
Spiritual emergence.
We just call all of that dreaming. Dreaming. Dreams. I'm dreaming right now. Dreams. We need dreams to go deep inside.
Имаме нужда от сънищата, за да можем да влезем по-надълбоко в себе си.
And have access to our whole selves.
И да имаме достъп до нашия вътрешен аз.
So and Mindell really wrote more than 20 books and has developed process work over the last 30 years.
Рейнмейл е написал повече от 30 книги през... Sorry, how many books?
Well, 20 I've counted.
Sorry. Повече от 20 книги през последните 30 години.
Make yourself a little comfortable. I think that's right. He's a physicist originally.
Той е физик.
And then became a psychologist.
И след това вече е станал психолог.
and we study the interface of matter and psyche, of where the spiritual, so to speak, the mental, spiritual, and the physical meet. That's a very mysterious meeting ground somewhere.
И всъщност той е основателя на това, което пресича материалното и духовното, там където се пресичат.
So I think process work is related to transpersonal psychology in many ways.
И тази работа, процесуалната, не знам дали така е такъв термин, да, всъщност е една от основните в трансперсоналната психология.
As it has a spiritual core.
Тъй като в основата е духовното.
Like from Jung and Assagioli, the whole tradition of the transpersonal self.
Още от Юнг тръгва така традицията за трансперсоналния аз.
What is the mind behind all life processes? What is that transpersonal self and how can we experience it? That's the point.
Как можем да извадим на показ нашия вътрешен аз, трансперсоналния аз?
For Mendel, there is some kind of an intelligent force behind our many life experience, something like a pilot wave, maybe, to use an analogy from physics, a guiding principle.
Всъщност, Мендел използва този водещ принцип в своята работа.
Is there a kind of mind? Is there God's mind in the background, or is it all chaotic and random?
Има ли нещо по-висше, като висш аз, или всичко е просто така се случва?
And today I would like with you to experience a bit of that transpersonal mind with very subtle techniques.
И днес искам вие да споделите вашите изживявания с тези техники.
Shamanism for process work is happening all the time.
Шаманизма в тази процесуална работа всъщност се случва през цялото време, се използва.
Right now, when I try to speak,
и в момента дори когато се опитвам да ви
and at the same time I'm
същото време
under the bed cover somewhere,
в момента в същото време на своето легло под
завивките си. State is happening at the same time.
В същото време в момента, когато говори в един такъв статут на сменен, да.
Process work is about awareness of the slight changes in consciousness and how you sense slight altered states.
В процесуалната работа с човека, с клиента, всъщност всяко едно изменение, което така излиза наяве.
So that's why I love addiction work and addiction.
И затова ми харесва работата с хора с пристрастявания.
Because it's one road into these altered states.
Един път, един стереотип към тези сменени състояния на съзнанието.
I had my own issues with addiction and had to
самия
work
съм
on
имал
myself.
проблеми с пристрастяването и съм работил над себе си.
And it provided a rich learning for me.
И това всъщност ми даде много от знанията, които имам в момента.
Like Christina Grof wrote Thirst for Wholeness.
Както Гроф е написал, самата книга не съм сигурна как се казва, така че може някой да ми помогне.
For process work, Christina Grof, Thirst for Wholeness.
Жажда за цялост.
And in our understanding, in my understanding, addictions are attempts at wholeness, indeed.
Всъщност, според неговите разбирания, всяко пристрастяване е някаква празнина, която трябва да се запълни.
And we can actually discover it.
И всъщност можем да сами да открием.
Like if this is your usual identification, if I ask you, who are you? Well, you're a translator, you're a woman, you have
коя си ти или, например, ти си в момента превеждаш, ти си на си колко години?
I'm trying to be a teacher who was asleep.
Аз се опитвам да бъда учител, който се заспива.
this kind of state that happened
Това
to me.
състояние,
It's a little bit like
това ми
drunk.
се случва.
It's a little bit
Малко
like
е като
drunk.
да си пиян.
So that some drunkenness is already happening without even drinking.
И понякога се случва това без да си пил. Може да се чувстваш като пиян.
Addictions, let's say. Like let's say you have a tendency toward
имат тенденция
chocolate.
примерно пристрастяване към шоколад.
Piece of chocolate once in a while.
Едничко от време на време.
A glass of beer once in a while.
Една чаша бира понякога.
Maybe you love running.
Може би понякога обичате да бягате.
Anything that puts you in a slight altered state.
Всичко това, което ви кара да се пренесете в това сменено състояние на съзнанието,
is an attempt
е един опит
to enlarge your sense of self.
да разширите своите усещания за азът, за своя аз.
So if this is your normal state of consciousness,
И ако това е нормалният статут на вашето съзнание,
with like let's say a drink, I get a little
и да речем,
fuzzy
че след едно
and tipsy.
питие ставам малко така попинал, размътена,
With a smoke,
с една цигара,
I'm looking for some internal state. Usually I don't know
се
that.
опитвам да усетя едно вътрешно по-различно състояние.
With me that would feel like that. I stopped 20 years ago, but I can still feel it.
И всъщност аз спрях да стигам до това състояние преди 20 години, но все още мога, дори без да го правя.
Now the shamanism, that process for practices is
И, например,
watching the signals.
както при работата с шаманизъм, това се случва.
Like I close my eyes and my body goes back a bit.
Затварям очите си, тялото
My voice drops a bit.
Гласът ми става по-нисък, по-тих.
And I obviously change the channels from
Видимо
visual and
сменям
talking
канала, сменям нагласата на говорене
to feeling and
към
going inside.
по-скоро почувстване на това, което е вътре в мен.
In that sense, every addictive tendency and addiction has a huge potential.
И в този ред на мисли всяко пристрастяване има един голям потенциал да се развие в нещо.
It's exactly what you need.
И от точно това всъщност има нужда един човек с пристрастявания.
So drink more, smoke
Пийте
more,
повече,
have more
пушете
sex,
повече, правете повече секс.
get high, without taking the substance. Now that's the big point.
Без да взимате самата субстанция.
As you see with cigarettes, I can just act it out a bit.
Аз всъщност мога да се преструвам, че пуша цигара и да имам същото чувство, че
I'm already there. I already feel it. I already access an altered state.
В това състояние на изменено съзнание.
In that sense, I get a taste of wholeness.
И точно в този смисъл аз вече усещам целостта.
My normal personality is Swiss and tries to be really on time and be really structured.
Ежедневният ми аз всъщност винаги се опитва да бъде точен, на време.
I can't do it today.
Но днес не мога да го направя.
I'm apologizing.
И много съжалявам за това, извинявам се.
But on the other hand, it's good. It shows exactly what I want to show, that these altered states are needed.
Че всъщност тези сменени състояния на съзнанието са нещо, от което имаме нужда всички.
With each substance or each process,
с всеки процес или всяко нещо, което е
you access an altered state.
Което ви помага да стигнете до това изменено съзнание.
A different altered state.
Всички тези различни състояния на съзнанието.
And each one of you accesses a completely different state with smoking or running or whatever you do.
в един различен, всеки за себе си.
But the point is that it enlarges the sense of yourself. You see, now I'm this big, my sense of self is larger.
И всъщност това ви помага да разкриете по-голяма част от себе си и от вашия аз.
This This is, in the end, your complete self.
Това включва вече накрая вашия
завършен аз. Your conscious part here.
Това е съзнателната ви част.
Similar to consciousness, to your identification.
Това е това, което разпознавате за себе си.
So see, looking at this marker, you could say we need it, right? We need to follow these tendencies.
Реално, вие всички имате нужда от тези сменени състояния.
They put us in touch with the bigger you, how we could say, the bigger you, the bigger the self. I'm not speaking for you should use substances or but feeling those altered states.
Но това да ги изпитвате, без дори да използвате тези вещества.
When somebody tells me he wants to take an acid trip or a mushroom or something.
И когато някой ми каже, че иска да вземе някаква нещо, което да го
вкарва в такова състояние, например,
гъби,
needs to drum.
Или пък, например, както в шаманизма, чрез звуци, с
I say, how do you imagine you would feel?
И просто ви питам, представете си как бихте се чувствали. Просто си представете.
I would feel like this, or I would
ето ще се чувствам така,
I would feel like this. And in 1 second the person is there.
Секунда всъщност вие вече сте там, човекът вече е там.
With what she needs. You don't need to take a substance. You don't need to spend a lot of money traveling around to go to people say, oh, if I was only at that beach, I would be happy.
И хората винаги намират някакво оправдание и казват, да, само ако бях там на този плаж, щях да бъда щастлив.
The beach is here.
Аз ви казвам, плажът е.
Let's be at the beach.
Нека да бъдем на плажа.
It feels so relaxed. Okay, it's right here in my office.
Всичко е тук и сега.
So in that sense, all these altered states are kind of shamanic and they can be accessed right now and here.
Всички състояния са, ако ги наречем шаманистки, са тук и сега.
The way to bring them out and support them.
Начинът, по който да ги изразим и да ги подплатим по някакъв начин,
is in process work by watching very precisely
като наблюдаваме много внимателно
the non-verbal signals. The verbal and non-verbal signals.
Не са вербални, не са гласни.
If you say, well, how was that when you smoked?
И всъщност, когато някой ви пита, добре, как се почувства, когато се напуши?
Refeel it a bit.
Опитай се да го изпиташ наново.
I would go like this, right?
И аз всъщност бих направил това.
It goes very quick, but you see, I close my eyes and I move a little back. Then you say, okay, close your eyes. Move back. More.
Върни се назад.
And you help the person unfold.
Помагаш на човека по този начин да се разкрие пред теб, да разкрие повече от себе си.
In feeling, in movement.
В неговото усещане, в неговото движение.
That those signals are amplified, as we say.
Сигнали са по някакъв начин усилени.
So I think it's a very precise technique to follow somebody's altered states and unfold them and actually get in touch with wholeness. It's not an idea, it's a lived experience.
Всъщност е много важно да се следва тези професионалната работа, която води към достигането на тази цялост и всъщност тя разкрива целостта на аза.
So it's an attempt at wholeness, of course, it's not wholeness. If you go into an altered state...
Това всъщност е само един опит да се достигне до целостта. Това не е всъщност... Всяко едно състояние не е само по себе си цяло.
If you use the substance, it's not really wholeness, then you fall back into your normal state.
Всъщност, когато използваме тези начини за достигане до
and the more you use, the narrower you become. The more you use the...
Ние не успяваме да достигнем до там, а ние намаляваме този...
The less in touch with yourself you are, of course.
Всъщност, не успяваме да достигнем до себе си, а се отдалечаваме от
So it's
нашия аз.
about integrating this state. It's about feeling it, sensing it, playing with it.
Трябва просто да играем с усещането, което искаме да достигнем и да се опитваме да го направим без да използваме метода.
Having it inform your everyday consciousness. Have this state, like let's say this state.
Това всъщност състояние можем да го достигнем.
Reini, you need to relax more. Close your eyes, feel more.
Можем да се отпуснем, да се затворим очите и да чувстваме повече.
How could I live this part more in everyday life?
Как мога повече да усещам от това в ежедневния си живот?
How could it help the Swiss in me?
Sorry?
How could it help the Swiss in me? How could it help my primary identity of being this teacher who should know? Yeah, that one. I think everybody understood.
Yeah, sorry.
You shouldn't work so hard.
Isn't this the power of memory?
Huh?
Isn't this the power of memory and nothing else?
Memory and fantasy, imagination also.
So memory is an artist.
Even if you've never experienced it, if I say, what do you think it would happen? Oh, I don't know, but I think. And then it already starts. Oh, I don't know, but I think. And the person already starts to move. He never experienced the state, but it already starts. The imagination, the fantasy.
Well, but it's memory, right?
Well, it's memory of the future. In a Jungian sense, it's memory of the future. It's the memory of the future. It's the memory of where we are going. Because in Jungian psychology, we are going somewhere toward wholeness, not pushed by Freudian impulses, but pulled by the spiritual calling over there. The potential is calling us. In every symptom, in every dream, in every relationship conflict, there is a potential for development. And that's what we are shooting at, to unfold that potential. I've worked very similarly with body symptoms, headaches, stomach aches, backaches, just the same. They're all dreams, you know, as you dream at night, visually. Right? You have dreams at night, you dream of a lion. You think psychologically, I need to have more contact with the lion energy. And then you have an eczema, and you go, and it's the same energy. Then you have a relationship fight with your partner. Why do you read the newspaper? And this process that wants to become conscious shows itself in all different places, in your body, in your dreams, in your relationships, in your addictions, in your addictive tendencies. And it all brings you closer to your transpersonal self, and that's the connection to growth and the transpersonal method. Let's try. Do you have a question? And then let's try some experience.
It means that you reject the chemistry, like we can imagine that we drank 2 bottles of whiskey, and we can have the same state of feelings and perception of the world and a view of point. It looks like I understood so that we can.
I think if you drink 2 bottles of whiskey, you will be in a coma.
Okay, 1 bottle. Okay, 1 bottle. 1 bottle.
No, it's like it's a little misunderstanding. We think you can go much further without the substance. Much further. Yeah,
you gave the example with the cigarette. Maybe with the cigarette it works.
with the whiskey
например,
also.
How can it work with the
What
whiskey?
did you ever have a sip of whiskey in your life?
Някога да сте пили
Bottle of whiskey?
No, not a
A
bottle, just a cup of.
Yeah.
So, what's the promise if you see a whiskey? What is it promising? There's a promise in there.
Уискито какво
It's a
ви
promise.
представя като
Promise can be different, but I mean
Yes,
that
promise can be very different.
Yeah.
Now
какво
and
възприятие
you and now.
получавате от
Yeah, promise is different for everybody and for maybe different situations.
for me it's just craziness.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I would say, show it. How crazy? Move it. How crazy? If you make a movement out of it.
Всъщност,
Love it. That's the
уискито
direction.
кара да се
Exactly.
държи
We need to integrate
по-бързо.
craziness. And then we need to go over the edge into craziness. Because addictions, that the whiskey helps us over that edge, and then we are crazy, and then in the next morning we wake up with a headache, and the whole thing repeats, because we're still needing that craziness somewhere. It's a personality part of us who says, come here, live it, be a little more loose. So, of course, here is a huge, what we call an edge. No, this doesn't work right. Now I lost it.
Do you want me to find you another one from the other?
No, don't leave. Here, like this. There's a huge barrier to that state, to craziness. And that's why we drink a whiskey and then we get a little crazy, but there's much more to this craziness. And we need to explore in movement, in feeling, in relationship, and get really a contact with whatever craziness means. It's a very good example. And so it's the promise in there when you go to the sauna, sauna. What's the promise? When you could relax. That is the calling. Sugar.
Релакс, например,
every
захарта,
person it's
това
different.
мисъл ви навява. Всичко ви навява някаква определена мисъл.
So we do a kind of dream work with it, shamanism. We go deep into this state.
С шаманизмът успяваме да навлезем дълбоко в състояние.
The difference to shamanism is
всъщност
the difference is
разликата с шаманизма
that in process work the client goes into the shamanic state, not the
че
shaman.
всъщност не шаманът навлиза в това състояние, а самия клиент който
I would help you to go crazy and show it and
аз ще
sound it and
как да накарате лудостта да излезе от вас.
and inform your everyday life a bit, and have it a bit more present.
И всъщност по този начин да можете да изживеете си живота си в тук и сега малко по
With alcohol we lose the connection to dreaming. If we drink, we get depressed and we lose the connection to dreaming. It's just a promise. Maybe one day we could finally be loose or social or crazy or
социалните си контакти или
Imam въпрос is showing.
or no, we speak English, okay?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So the addiction is showing your part of your shadow that you are not recognizing.
Yes.
Всъщност, тези пристрастявания показват нещо, което е скрито във вас.
And actually, it anyhow shows already in your signals. You cannot hide it.
Всъщност, винаги това се вижда в сигналите, които давате
It already shows in your double signal spot. We don't call it shadow. We call it creative potential. Creative potential. We don't call it shadow sounds.
Say something that you are not accepting yourself.
Yes, a compensation.
And you want to
Have it. Yes.
нещо, в което
Embrace your
да
monster.
компенсирате липсата.
Embrace your monster. That's the whole
Трябва
point.
да приемете този.
Also in conflict work, in process-oriented conflict work, see, embracing the monster, embracing your opponent, embracing the other.
Всъщност да може да приемете този това, което е във вас, да го приемете,
learning from the other.
да се учите от примера на околните.
The transpersonal self is me and the monster.
Трансперсоналният аз е това, което съм аз и звяра вътре в мен.
It's all of us
Във всеки
together.
един от нас.
And
Във
it's
всички нас.
in me, and it's in you,
Също в мен, във вас
and it's in the relationship.
има връзка между нас.
So very similar to whole work on conflict, actually.
И всъщност всичко се базира в конфликта.
You should take a postcard. It's a fantastic
Също
conference in
вземете си
Zurich on
тази
conflict,
картичка, която по-рано също показах,
group process methods.
която разкрива този... ще има събитие в Цюрих
How to
и
help,
ще
how to
разглежда точно
help
тази
the
работа
world,
с, работата с хора, как да се помогне на...
how to help change processes.
Как да се помогне да се промени този процес.
Let's try an experience. Just turn to your neighbor and briefly
Обърнете се до човека, който седи до вас,
say
да направим един опит
one or
сега
two or three addictive tendencies you're having or addictions.
и споделете една, две, три пристрастявания, които имате.
And don't say the ones you don't want to say.
И всъщност не казвайте тези, които не искате да кажете.
Be aware of shyness and embarrassment and don't push
Всички
yourself.
знаем, че всеки от нас изпитва неудобство. Не се насилвайте, ако не искате.
And check it out if you feel free to say.
Но пък ако искате, може да се
And
разкриете.
then in the second step,
И втората стъпка ще бъде
choose one,
изберете една от тези тенденции,
maybe the scariest one,
може би най-страшната за вас.
and let's say,
И нека да кажем,
and then the next step is feel the need in it. Behind
следващата
it.
стъпка е почувствайте нуждата, която изпитвате зад тази
Feel the need behind it.
пристрастяване, да.
The longing, the promise. Let's say if I'm addicted to cell phones, I need to
Нека да кажем, например,
SMS
съм
like every 2 minutes,
пристрастен
every
към
2 seconds, right?
телефоните, към мобилните
It's
телефони.
like
Трябва
my
да
hands go there automatically.
пускам
Right?
SMS всеки 2 минути.
Even it's not mine, but I use it for
Ето не е мое, да го
this
използвам.
tendency. What's the promise? What's the
Всъщност
promise in there?
какво ми обещава,
I could
че
be
ще ми даде
connected
като
to the whole
усещане,
world. Maybe I
че ще съм
could
свързан с
get
целия
some
свят,
news or
че,
Famous or something.
huh?
Famous or something.
че ще съм известен.
Yeah,
може би.
maybe there's a picture of me in the radio or on the TV or whatever. Famous, yes, something. What is it? It's not for everybody. It's
Нещо има,
different.
но това за всеки е различно.
So discover the need.
И
Let's say you eat
то-
chocolate.
То всъщност е самата нужда. Да речем
If
с
you-
шоколад.
If you
Ако
think
ядем шоколад,
chocolate, if you think chocolate,
ако си мислите за шоколад,
you feel a certain need. What is it?
изпитвате определена нужда.
What is it
Каква е тази нужда?
promising to give you?
Какво ви обещава като усещане идеята за шоколад?
Feel that need a bit.
Изпитайте нуждата
Just
за
for
това
yourself
чувство.
in the diet now in Bara and the pairs, huh?
Просто сега, докато си говорите помежду си.
And talk a little bit about it. And don't go into too deep because this can go really
И
deep. Huh?
не навлизайте твърде дълго в това,
Just a little bit, like my cigarette smoking.
като примера ми с цигарата.
So need like close everything, close the
Затворете
curtain
се от всичко пред вас, пуснете завесата и се наслаждайте на момента.
and deep need to connect with myself.
Тази дълбока нужда да се свържеш с хората.
Which is of course never lived out if I smoke, because if I smoke,
Което
I
никога
smoke
не
like this.
означава, че ако всъщност пуша,
It's
не
not
го
deep
изпитвам.
So, and then the last step is
И последната стъпка в това упражнение ще бъде
how do you need this state?
колко силно имате нужда от
how do
това
you need
състояние, което искате да придобиете.
Not
да
the substance,
достигнете.
but the state.
Не от самото вещество, което ще вземете, ами от състоянието, което ще
And
придобиете.
what part of you needs it?
И каква част от вас всъщност има нужда да го живее.
Yes, and it is a kind of a compensatory model, right? Here is my identity, here is my ultimate state.
Всъщност
They,
ето тук е модела, тук е
they
моята
need each
същност,
other.
тук е това, което искам да достигна.
They are reactions to each other. They are compensatory.
Те всъщност се взаимодействат и се компенсират едно от друго.
Okay, try it out for, let's try it
Направете го
for
сега
10 minutes.
за 60 минути.
Steps again.
Yes, first step, who are you?
Първата стъпка е
Right now,
кой
today.
си ти?
Teacher, man, what are some 2-3 sentences who you are. Then,
Три изречения може да ги съберете кой си.
remember a few addictions you have,
Спомнете си какви пристрастявания
or
имате.
addictive tendencies, and then share it with the
След това
partner,
го споделете с партньора в вас
and then choose one.
и след това изберете само едно от тези три.
And then feel the need behind
И
the
изпитайте
substance. What state
самата нужда.
does it put you in? What state you get?
Какво е чувството, което изпитвате след като използвате това или направите?
And then ask yourself, what part of you needs more of this? What part of
След
everyday
това се
life, of your
запитайте
everyday
каква част от
personality
вас и всъщност има нужда да изпита това усещане.
needs more of this state?
Каква част от вас има нужда от това състояние?
Could this
в ежедневния
state,
живот?
could this state inform your primary personality?
Всъщност, дали ще има комуникация между това състояние и това, което сте вие в ежедневния ви, всекидневния живот?
Here is the teacher that tries to
Дали
get
това е
everything
учителя,
linear
който се
on
опитва
time,
да ви покаже всичко и да ви
and
даде
is looking at
да
you
направи
and
всичко
is making contact,
на време,
and here is the smoker who goes up,
или този, който обича да пуши и
closes
да
his
се
eyes.
поставя това.
So how can these two parts
Как тези две
integrate?
състояния могат да бъдат интегрирани, да се
We're
съчетаят?
working on the dance between the primary personality
Това, което е
and the altered state part. How could they dance together?
основното и с сменения
So you change and so you integrate
Вие се променяте по този начин.
the altered state that your addictive tendency calls you toward.
И по този начин sorry,
No, it's-
repeat that one.
That the addictive tendency says, like, come here, come, it calls you.
Всъщност това състояние те предизвиква да го направиш.
Okay, take 10 minutes, and I actually wanted to do 3 exercises, but this is the
Всъщност
first
сега ще
one.
си починем 10 минути и
Yeah.
исках да направим 3
Don't go
упражнения. Това ще
far,
бъде
just
само
experiment a
първото.
little.
Май беше 10 минути да имам.
Да, 10 минути за упражнението.
Take
Да.
10 minutes back and forth. And maybe also threes, consistent threes, just
Maybe I'll write it.
so this language and not any other.
Hi to everyone.
Yes. Okay, let's go very slowly then. Is everybody back?
Всички приключихте ли?
So this getting to know the altered state behind the addiction.
Успяхте ли да разберете какво се крие зад тези пристрастявания?
Is actually a spiritual move in a way, no?
Дали е по някакъв начин духовно?
Because it makes the sense of yourself bigger.
Защото по този начин се разширява съзнанието.
As you have said, you embrace your shadow or you embrace other parts of you.
Така приемате към себе си по-голяма част от себе си, дори сянките.
And it doesn't matter if they're aggressive or sweet or related or unrelated or cold or hard. The quality doesn't matter. It's always a compensation for who you normally are.
И няма значение качеството какво е, дали е чувство на
It's always a compensation
Да,
for
винаги
who
има
you normally are.
компенсация на това, което чувствате.
And this connection between addiction and spirituality,
И тази връзка между пристрастяването и духовността,
Stan and Christina Grove have written a lot about,
както Кристина Грот е написала много за това,
and Mendel has developed exercises,
и Мендел е създал упражнения.
and the idea is very old, very old.
Идеята е много стара.
Let's think. Jung met Bill Wilson. You know Bill Wilson, who founded AA, Alcoholics Anonymous.
Бил Уилсън
Bill Wilson is the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous.
е създал анонимните алкохолици.
And Jung said to him,
Юнг му е казал,
the addict is a spiritual seeker.
че пристрастяването е духовно търсене.
He seeks the union with God in some sense.
По някакъв начин е търсене на юнион.
He seeks the union with God.
Обединение на с Бог.
With God. Okay.
Come together.
So, this is a very big idea,
Това е много голяма идея.
and here we practice it, step by step,
И тук може да се практикува стъпка в стъпка,
meeting the missing pieces of reality.
като срещаме липсващите части на нашата реалност.
Finding parts of you
Откриваме части от нас,
that you have been marginalizing, putting to the side,
които са били поставени на страни.
and you need more contact with.
И имаме нужда от контакт с тях.
The problem, Gregory Bateson, you know Gregory Bateson? No, you don't know Gregory Bateson? Oh my God. Well, he's died all the time. And they're difficult to understand. But one thing I understood.
Okay.
Yes, but you have questions.
No, I just wanted to say that last year I translated a book by Deepak Chopra, who was based on the 12 step programs of Alcoholics Anonymous. And he goes exactly along the same line as what you say here, is that the addict is a spiritual seeker, and he's taking the same steps but with a more spiritual meaning to it. I thought that his approach was really...
Където се споменават тези стъпки,
I know his book well.
отново за духовното търсене.
But that's why on the back they have references, right? Where they.
But nobody has the methods, believe me. Nobody has the experiential therapeutic techniques.
Но никой няма.
I didn't find any. With Deepak Chopra, you have to eat certain things, you have to go to sleep early, you know, it's the Ayurveda treatment of some sort. Here, in process work, the solution is in the addiction. The addiction shows you exactly what you need.
Решението в пристрастяването и пристрастяването ти казва точно какво значи.
If you understand how to unfold it.
Разбираш как да разбереш какво се крие зад пристрастяването.
The signals show you.
Сигналите, има сигнали, които ти показват. Личните сигнали.
You don't have to invent something. It's
Не е
there
нужно да
in front of
изобретявате
you.
нещо.
Yes, and Gregory Bateson, by the way, said the problem is not the drunken state. The problem is not in the crazy state, in the drunken state. The problem is in the normal, sober state. Normal and sober. Why? Because otherwise we would not try to get out of the normal state. So we need to change the normal state. That's too oppressive. We need to find a way to invite all our parts. And that's what Mendel and we call it deep democracy.
Това Мендала го нарича
Deep democracy.
дълбока демокрация.
Which is the democracy that invites all voices.
Която демокрация е да поканим всички
All voices, yes.
всички
In the
гласове
group.
в групата.
All voices in the relationship.
Всички гласове във връзките.
And all voices in yourself.
И всички връзки вътре в нас. Всички гласове в
All
нас.
feelings, emotions,
Всички чувства, емоции,
viewpoints,
всички гледни точки.
they all need to come on the table.
Всички те трябва да излязат пред нас на масата.
And what creates conflict and addiction
Да разберем кое точно създава конфликта и пристрастяването.
is rather that we marginalize all many voices.
По-скоро, отколкото да ги разделяме на много различни гласове.
That they have no place at the table, they're not allowed to the table.
И да не им позволяваме да бъдат на масата.
And then they revolt. Then there is a revolution, there is revolt.
Защото те тогава ще направят революция и ще искат да излязат.
Then inside a part comes up and grabs us like as an addiction.
И тогава те ще излязат вътре от нас и ще станат като пристрастяване.
Because if there's no other way she can live, she can have a place at the table.
Защото няма друг начин как те да си намерят място от нас, ако не сме ги извадили на нас.
So preventative medicine is to actually explore these altered states and these extreme states.
Затова методите са да
Preventative medicine
превентивните мерки са да
is
се
to is to laugh. That's preventative medicine. Looks it sometimes. That's preventative medicine.
Превентивните мерки са да се открият тези, да се
To invite all the parts.
да се повече експлорират. Да се изследват, за да ги извадиме на масата.
So I read a lot of Rumi, you know, Jalaluddin Rumi, the poet, Sufi poet.
Много съм чела за
Rumi, and he wrote the poem The Guest House.
Той е написал поемата
Guest House. Being human is like a guest house. It doesn't say it here.
Да бъдеш човек е като
Being human is like a guest house.
като къща за гости.
Ghosti, guest house. Every day somebody else knocks on the door.
Всеки ден някой чука на вратата.
Like, let's say, an altered state,
Като изменено състояние.
a sadness,
Тъга.
a meanness,
Злоба.
a malice,
Меланхолия.
different feelings and tendencies and the good and the bad.
И добри и лоши.
Welcome them all. Say, hello, go to the door, open the door and say, hello, welcome.
Кажете им добре дошли.
Welcome. Because every those tendencies, each of those tendencies
Защото всяка една от тези тенденции
is a guide from God.
идва от Бога.
It is just sent to you
И е изпратена до вас
for your own enlightenment,
за вашето просветление.
to be closer to your transpersonal self. So to speak.
Да бъдете по-близко до своето трансперсонално състояние.
It's all easy said, but more difficult to do.
Много е лесно да се каже, но много е трудно да се направи.
So it needs a lot. You need a lot of conflict to learn it,
Затова ни трябват много конфликти, за да се научим.
and group processes and inner work.
И работа в група, както и навътре към себе си.
But I think that's the royal road to your transpersonal self, to your complete self.
Но най-важната роля е да
It's a big road. It's an autobahn to your transpersonal self. Okay. Do you have any questions? And I think we can't do any more exercises. It's too late. It's not a seminar. It was just a little bit of an idea about how process works.
Но просто исках да ви покажа една малка идея как може да...
What did you say at the end about needing conflict?
To get to know the other. You know, if you have a conflict with me, done.
Ако имате конфликт с мен,
If you say, Reini, you're too aggressive,
ако кажете, вие
right?
сте твърде агресивни,
And I say, what?
аз ще
You
кажа,
are
какво
aggressive.
ти си агресивен?
Then we learn about aggressivity. I learn about myself.
Така ние учиме за агресивността.
Because what you tell me is true. It's a little bit true.
Защото каквото ми каже човек за мен, това е истина.
Everything anybody says about you is maybe true 1% or 10%. So you learn through conflict, we're all learning.
Така се учим от конфликтите, защото всеки, който каквото каже, малък процент от това е истина.
And for me, similar addiction is like the other, because it's an other state that's always there in my face. Chocolate, chocolate, chocolate. What do I need to learn from you?
Затова пристрастяването е изменено състояние, защото
Cigarette, what do I need to learn from you?
трябва да се попитаме какво трябва да научим от това пристрастяване.
Does that answer your question?
Just another one, not a question, but different kinds of addictions that are not obvious. So I was thinking I had one sometimes with anger, or different subtle addictions that maybe we're not aware of. Feelings.
Anything that sort of surprises you and grabs you sometimes is of course interesting to explore.
Всичко, което ви изненадва, е интересно да се изследва.
I do a lot of work with altered states and extreme states, even on psychosis even, spiritual emergence, all these altered states, like hungry ghosts that grab you.
Аз работя много с изменено състояние и всички тези, които ви сграбчват.
Yeah, like a compulsion, a fear.
Като страх.
What else do you have? I forgot. Is there anything else? A craziness, a mania, depression. They're all there for something. They want to teach you something.
Те са там, за да ни научат на нещо.
They have a message to the primary personality.
Те изпращат съобщение до
to the mainstream personality. To the identity.
До идентичността.
If I say, what's your name? Angelina, I'm so depressed.
Ако кажа
So depressed.
много съм депресиран.
You see that I do two things. I say I'm depressed, but I'm hitting on the chair and I'm angry.
Аз казвам, аз съм депресиран, удрям и по
So
стола,
in that is a lot, big potential.
В това има голям потенциал.
Or if I say, oh, you know, Angelina, I feel really good.
Но ако кажа,
Why are you laughing?
много добре.
Because it's not congruent. You know, I have a lot of clients that say, Reini, I made so much money today. I feel really good.
Много клиенти, които казват, днеска направих много пари.
Well, it's going pretty good.
Направих много добре.
And after like 3 sessions, I get depressed, right?
И след 3 сесии съм депресиран.
So in that type of depression, the person needs more feeling, and he's going down.
В този тип депресия трябва повече чувството, отива надолу.
And in the other, he's going, he's aggressive. And so even altered states, it's like addictions. You just unfold the signals.
Дори измененото състояние като
You unfold the signals and you work with the secondary signals. There's some signals that belong to the primary process, to the identity.
Някои сигнали отиват до идентичността.
I'm depressed.
Аз съм депресиран.
And I'm depressed, that voice
И аз съм депресиран.
belongs
Друг глас.
to the potential, to the other
потенция.
side, to the potential. And if I say, oh, I'm so good, I'm doing really well, what I say is the primary personality. I'm doing well. I believe I'm doing well. But deep down I know I feel like shit. But I can't admit it, I can't feel it.
Oh, we can see it verbally, non-verbally.
Yeah, so you need to help the person to lie on the floor. Lie him there and say, just feel it, dear. Just
Да легне
feel.
долу и
Just
просто
relax
да се
and
отпусне
feel.
и да почувства.
And then maybe the person will say,
Тогава може би
and will have a few feelings.
този човек ще има някакви чувства.
So it's similar to addiction. It's similar. It's just altered states.
Много близко до пристрастяване.
It's also parts of your personality that call you, that want to have more room, that want to be
Част
more
от
present.
вашата личност, която ви иска да ви каже, че иска повече пространство.
And in process work, for instance, we don't have a concept of spiritual emergence.
И ние нямаме концепция за духовна.
That's quite a difference. Mendel and Grof have had the conflict about that 20 years ago.
Мандела и Гроф имаха конфликт с това преди 20
Not anymore.
Но не вече.
And for us, everything is a spiritual emergence.
За нас всичко
Everything.
е духовна.
Everything.
Бърза помощ за духа.
Diverse psychosis is a spiritual emergence. Maybe not for the person, but for us around. There is always a learning. There's always a push toward wholeness.
Винаги има някакъв сигнал за...
There's always a tendency to a self-organizing tendency toward more completeness, more complexity, more wholeness.
Винаги има тенденция да бъдем по-цялостни.
And if the person can change, one more minute, if the person can change because she is in an extreme state of consciousness like a psychosis, if the person can't get out of it,
ако личността не може да излезе от това състояние,
then we can do something.
тогава ние трябва да направим нещо.
I can ask myself, how am I like this? How am I not enough like this? How am I not enough like crazy like this? Why, I'm so mainstream, this poor person needs to be crazy because I'm so normal.
Защо съм толкова нормален? Да се запитаме, защо съм толкова нормален, но този беден човек е луд.
And then I can work on myself to be looser.
И тогава може би трябва да работи върху
And
себе
believe
си.
it will be good for this person.
И ще бъде добре за другия човек.
She will look and say, oh, now I like you more.
Тогава другия човек ще каже, о, сега те харесвам повече.
Or we do all kinds of psychological interventions, even stealing the process and matching a psychotic process, so with acting it out. So we don't have a concept of spiritual. Everything is spiritual emerging. The spirit is emerging. You can't stop it by putting them in the hospital or labeling them as psychotic or spiritual emerging.
I would like to know more about this primal identification because it should be changeable.
It's just however a person identifies. If I say I am a teacher, I'm from Switzerland, then this is my primary process. And if I say I'm really Swiss, I'm very Swiss, I'm from Switzerland, and I'm falling asleep, this is my secondary process. It's happening to me. And we're always working with bringing together primary and secondary. But this is technical and this is the inside of process work, which has a beautiful awareness model to structure processes. But this is too much for here at 6 o'clock, but I'm happy to talk to you in the break sometime. Or whoever is interested. Okay. I think it's 6 o'clock. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Angelina, taking over. She was a great translator. Where is she?
That's what I told her, that she started crying. I told her.
Yeah. Okay, have a nice evening.
She was very quiet, that's why she was a great.